Hey friends, welcome to the Aeroponic Tower channel. Today we are going to clean out my hydroponic tower here. Not completely, but I have a big harvest of turnips that I need to harvest. And I need to clean up some leaves. I'm noticing some caterpillars. So we're just going to address tidying up this hydroponic tower of food over here and plant some new things and just give it a little refresh. I teach interval planting, so rarely am I harvesting everything off a tower at once and replacing everything. I'm always just taking out what needs to be eaten and adding new things. And we definitely have some food on this tower that needs to be eaten. You also may notice my beautiful garden beds. I'll put a link to these below if you're interested. These are great because I can build them. They last a really long time, so I'm not going to have to worry about these falling apart like my wood ones have. They're relatively easy to move if you change your mind, which is kind of where I'm at right now. We're resetting things, and this is where I grow the things I can't grow in my hydroponic towers. I grow most of our food hydroponically, but these are amazing for the things that are just slow to grow in a tower or won't grow. Things like potatoes and carrots and onions and those kind of things. So this fills the gap. All right, so let's dive into this tower, talk about what's going on, and see the amazing abundance you can grow in literally 2.5 square feet. All right, first things first. This is a home tower by Tower Garden. I will put a link below. I have tons of resources. This is my main growing, I don't know, what do you call it, system? So I have 13. I have plans for a few more. I do grow on other systems and I will share some of those. I grow mushrooms, the raised garden beds. I have another hydroponic system you guys will be seeing soon. That is amazing. But most of the food that I grow on my vertical tower gardens because they work. They're amazing. This has 64 grow ports. I use every single one of them 365 days a year because that's what replaces the grocery store and keeps us eating homegrown food. So the main thing we need to do is just start to eliminate some leaves that aren't looking great. I'm going to make a little pile for the chickens. There's been some caterpillars, so I need to give it a little spray. I like to use a biological for that. I prefer not to do anything and just hand remove them, but they're kind of out of control. And as you can see, there's a lot of plants here, so it's easy to not catch them before they do a lot of damage, which is what's happened. So let's just get started. All right, and below here is actually my permaculture edible landscaping. So I'm just gonna drop the bad leaves down here because the chickens have plenty of food and I don't have plenty of time. But we need to harvest the turnips first because I'm having a hard time just even seeing what's going on. Now the ones that have, this one had 3 growing on it. The other 2 are small, but this one is taking up too much space. So we will definitely harvest the bigger ones and leave the smaller ones. All right, I was growing over 32 turnips, so a lot of them. So I'm able to harvest some that definitely could grow a little bit more, but they're just in the way, honestly, of other things. And I'm going to do some fermenting, and I like young turnips. And so now I'm just going through and cleaning up some of these bad leaves so we can get a little better airflow and give some of these other plants that need a little bit more sunlight light. There's all our caterpillar damage. There's caterpillar poop, so it's definitely an active infestation. So I will show you how we take care of that. All right, I had to go get a battery. My kiwi plant is trying to get in the film. So I went ahead and made my caterpillar spray, and I made it pretty strong because I don't want to spray a lot. I just like to do a misting and take care of this really quickly. It's a white moth caterpillar is the problem. If you watch some of my past videos over the last couple weeks, you'll see them flying all over my head, but they have died back. It's actually cooling off here, so I don't see them, so I'm not worried about this being a long-term issue, but I am worried about future eggs hatching. So this takes care of them. I use either Thuricide or Arbor. I'll link both below. And it's just a biological. When they bite the leaf that has this on it, it basically explodes their stomach. Not very nice, but we cannot have caterpillars eating our food. We need our food. So again, I try not to use anything, but if it means I'm not gonna have a good crop, this is all cauliflower and kale. I don't really care about the turnip leaves as much because I have so many. But I do need my cauliflower and kale to produce. Those are important. I've got bok choys growing in here. You know, we just don't want to lose that stuff. So I'm going to keep cleaning up. We'll do this last. This one was getting dry. It's not getting any water. But how you know they are ready to harvest is if they're not big. Like sometimes they get gigantic. I've grown them this big before. But this one obviously isn't getting any water, which I'm not sure why. The tower's probably tilted because it's on soft sand, so I'll fix that. And that's not always an issue. Like these roots are wet at the bottom. It just wasn't getting enough up here. And so with bigger plants, like a tomato or a pepper, that doesn't matter because the feeder roots are towards the bottom or inside the channel. But when you've got a lot of the feeder roots towards the top and it's a small root bed like this, not having water is obviously a problem. But you see how it's turning and it's starting to get a lot of growth here in the middle. They are going to produce more leaves as they grow, but when this gets thick here, it's starting to want to go to flower. That's like the very, very first sign. So when you start to notice this part, you've got your feeder bulb. When you notice this part starting to get thick, it's time to get it off the tower regardless of the size. And it was probably the stress of not having water that's pushing it, not enough water, pushing it to go to seed. Yeah, a lot of plants on this side are dry, so we're going to realign this. This is endive. Don't be afraid to move your plants. This was shading out some things and it was a little jammed up for looking amazing. So I'm just going to remove the not so great leaves. One of my favorite foods right now. It's so good for you. I'm going to just put it somewhere it can have a little more space because this can get 4 times this big. Gigantic. And I'm going to see. And I'm going to level this and then we're going to give it a spray. And that's really all the maintenance I need to do with this tower. I'll show you what's on this one next to it. The other home tower. These are the home units. But you can see it already looks much better. There is lots of food to harvest, but I don't want to harvest things like you can cut these and let them regrow. They do amazing. I don't say that about many things. I usually say harvest it all and start over because texture, taste, less wear on your tower. Like bigger roots are going to use more nutrients and water and things like that. So with lettuce, I say harvest the whole thing, just be starting seeds often. But with this endive, it just grows back so well that I like to cut it and come again. So there is some I'll cut tomorrow. There's parsley. There's so much food on here. It's incredible. I'll take you guys on a closer tour once we finish up some of these chores. That one's a big one. Okay, if that fixed the problem. All right, I'm going to show you guys a trick. Whew. All right, this right here is celery. And so celery Oh, celery grown on the towers. It's incredible. It's very slow to start. It's very finicky. Takes a really, really long time before it gets in the tower. So I grow them in clusters. I'll start 5-10 seeds at a time, and then as they get mature, I break them apart. I usually do it before they get this mature, more like 5 inches, because now they're very root bound. But we can still do this. So I'm going to show you. And we're going to put a couple of these. They're not going to go back in that grow port. And if you have to rip some roots, it's okay. It's celery. They recover just great. So all you're going to do is take it and rip off some roots. And make sure to get a good amount. Okay, there we go. I'm going to drop it on the ground for now. We got 2 more. If I leave them like this, they'll grow, but they'll be leggy. They're not going to get big celery stalks, and I actually made some untuna with chickpeas today using celery. It's so good. In the fall, it just is incredible with the cool weather, and I want to make sure we have nice big celery over the next couple of months. All right, so I took a piece of scrap rock wool that was on the ground actually, and wrapped it around, and I'm going to put this in a baby greens section. All right, I just stuck that one up there. It'll look lopsided for a couple of days and then it'll be fine. I'm gonna put the other 2 on this tower too. They do better towards the top of the tower, the celery. Okay, so again, all I'm doing is taking rock wool where something didn't start, so it's a great way to recycle your rock wool. Trying to keep it together as much as possible. That will usually break apart. And that's it. It'll look sad for a couple of days. It'll be fine. Give it a good spot. So the rock wool, someone asked me this the other day. The rock wool's purpose is to allow the roots to take shape, and then it goes into the tower, and then the rock wool really is starting to disintegrate and fall apart. You don't need the rock wool. So all I need the rock wool for right now is to hold these in place. Like this one is not holding great. It's kind of flopping over. It'll take root and be fine in no time. But that's all this is. We don't really need the rock wool for anything other than to help them take shape. I'm also using some of the other plants to hold this up until it's a little bit more stable. I'm going to tuck it behind all these other plants. Yeah. Let's see if we can't. Let's see if I can't get this one a little more stable. Rock wool is Roman lava rock. It just will turn back into rock in the ground. I feed it to my chickens. It's great. Or I just throw it on the ground. Okay. Alright, that one made that a little more stable. It's still flopped over. Wish I had a plant to hold it up. Okay, I got some plants to hold that one up. And that's it. Let's spray our caterpillars. So with this, I like to spray under the leaves, if I can get to them. And I can see them all over. They're huge. Leaves grow back. It's okay. Try not to take more than a third at a time. This is baby cauliflower. It's going to start producing cauliflower heads any day. So it's fine. So we got that cleaned up. I'm not going to put anything else in this tower today. I'm going to let the caterpillar situation get under control, because a caterpillar on a new baby cabbage can eat the whole thing. I just found one in my other tower where it's almost dead because it ate almost every leaf. And so I'm just going to give this a day or two, and then I will add new starts to this. But we do need to put water in this tank and feed it. This tower got really dirty too, and I made a huge mess on the ground. from all these leaves. But this is what I'll compost. I'll toss them all in later. Pretty casual with my measuring and with nutrients. I just haven't found it matters that much personally. So I do 1.5 of each A and B using Tower Garden nutrients. I personally find the more people fuss with this and the pH and all that stuff, the more problems they have. So I don't fuss. And that's it. We're back to growing. Some people use less nutrients in the summer. Some people use less nutrients when plants are younger. All total preference. I typically just stick with what I know works. 1.5 for my home units is what they get. I do max my towers out too. So that's another thing to be mindful of. A lot of people don't have extensions. They don't have baby greens extensions. That adds another 32 grow ports. And you can see I'm growing full-size celery. I'm growing full-size endive plants, full-size parsley plants up here. A lot of those turnips are a good medium size. It's a lot of food. You know, 32 turnips on one tower is a lot of food. Barely be able to get 32 in a bed this size. So just the amount of food we can grow in such a small space, because we're going vertical and because these towers are so efficient, is incredible. But I do keep my nutrients full strength because of that reason.